Hello, Paris. It was a true honor for me to receive an invitation from Clément Beaune, an old colleague and friend, to address your conference today, a conference that is focusing on the fundamental issue of democracy. It seems we know everything about democracy, right? But we still learn how to practice democracy, how to defend democracy, how to take democracy forward every day of our lives. And the trick is that the moment we stop, democracy will begin to vanish. Because there is always someone who wants us not to be as democratic as we strive to be. And this is the dilemma of life. You have to be active, you have to make an effort, you have to try your best every day, because if you are not, then others will take advantage of you and they will impose their rules on you. The problem I think we are facing today, well, we are facing many problems, but this one is, in my view, particularly fundamental, is that those who want to undermine democracy are trying to exploit democratic instruments for their benefit. For example, they say, if you are a Democrat and you support freedom of speech, one of the core principles of democracy, then you should let me say whatever I want. And they use it to promote their ideas that have nothing to do with democracy. How do we handle such situation? There is some guidance, but there is no clear answer to that. What we know for sure is democracy is something that is clearly worth defending, and I appreciate that you take part in this event willing to defend democracy. There are numerous threats to democratic development, and they are very different. For example, in Ukraine, Russia poses the biggest threat to democracy. Russia is not a democratic state. Some call it authoritarian, but I think we shouldn't shy away from calling spade a spade. Russia is a dictatorship. And it cannot tolerate the existence of democratic Ukraine. This is why it waged a war against independent, sovereign Ukraine that strives to develop as a European democracy. In France, you recognize that Russia poses a threat to European and French democracy at a, let's say, macro level. But I believe, and you're welcome to counter my point if you find it different from what you believe in, the biggest threat to democracy in France and in other European nations today is polarization in societies. Of course, we could dwell about other threats to democracies, but I think this one is fundamentally important because it kills one of the key fundamentals of democratic development, which is people holding different views, talking to each other, and finding mutually acceptable solutions. In a radicalized society, people do not talk to each other. People talk within bubbles with each other. And there's a big difference here. Nothing causes more damage to democracy long term than the growing inability of people to talk to someone who does not belong to their bubble, and to fail to find solutions to the situations they are facing, because every country is facing different problems and situations that need to be resolved. Polarization is killing democracy. Although one would say different opinions are the cornerstone of democracy that's cemented. It is true, but as I said in the very beginning, everything taken to the extreme turns from being good to being bad and harmful. And polarization is not about diversity of opinions. It's about the will of one bubble to fight another bubble. And this becomes a problem. So, if you ask me, what is the first thing we have to do to come to terms with when it comes defending democracy? I think the answer is talking to each other. I think the answer is being able to make compromises for the benefit of all of us, for the benefit of our societies, of our nations, of our common continent, Europe. And holding a conference like this is critically important. But what will be even more important is also to move on, and I know that there will be other events as part of this effort where you have to engage with the other after defining your principles and, as diplomats would say, in your negotiating position. Which takes me to the next question. If one bubble talks to another bubble and succeeds in finding compromises in France, is it enough? No, it is not, because we do not live on an island of our nation. Our nations belong to a much broader historic and historical project, which is called Europe. France is one of the founding fathers or mothers of Europe, of the European Union. Ukraine is coming back to where it belongs to, which is Europe and the European Union. Ukraine was actually stolen from Europe 300 years ago, and now it is on its way back, and we appreciate the support that France has extended to this great Ukrainian return. But it will not be possible to defend democracy in France, in Ukraine, or any other European country without a strong, democratic, and resilient European Union. So it is not enough to care for democracy in your own country. You also have to be vigilant about threats to democracy in other European nations and have trust in the European Union. I know there is nothing easier than criticizing the European Union for all the sins, all the problems that Europe is facing. But the truth is that the EU is a key to solving problems. Unity in our nations, unity at the pan-European level, is a key to solving problems and to defending our democracy. I know it's not easy. I know it's challenging. I know it's exhausting. I know sometimes we begin to believe that simple solutions are the best answers to complicated problems, but they're not. And I would like to end where I started. Democracy is a daily practice. Democracy is a daily effort. It's a daily routine. And if we are not resolved enough to practice democracy every day, to engage with others, while being able to defend democracy from the threat that some are posing to it, then democracy will be lost. And it may happen in a blink of an eye. You go to bed in one country and you wake up in another. So I encourage all of you to fight for democracy in a way that will bring more people closer and will help to build national and European consensus. Because here, on this continent, we've learned one very important lesson over the centuries of our bloodthirsty history. And the lesson is, democracy is the form of governance that made our continent safe and prosperous. And therefore, it is worth defending it. And hence, we have to believe in the strengths of our generation to defend our democracy and to take it to the next level against all odds. And we in Ukraine are doing our part of the job by defending Europe from the military threat to democracy. Please have the strength to defend Europe from other threats to democracy that you are struggling with on a daily basis. We shall succeed for the sake of our lives, but also for the sake of the next generations. Thank you, and I wish you a very productive discussion. À bientôt.